They just came out with the, did you see the two or whatever?
Yeah. Which is like,
It's just like
an A7
it's just like with like an eyepiece.
Well, they already had like, they have only two more confusing ones. They have the A7C and like.
All the cross country ones.
No, they have full frame versions.
There's
They C's. Like there's one that's an A7 IV and there's another one that's an A7S3 inside it. And then that one will overheat a little bit, like. Very specific about all that stuff, yeah. And if you're doing it wrong, can it do this or that?
Where do you want this?
Just sit down. You'll find this, every camera that they want.
Just those mics up.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And we're not by side.
There was a newspaper this morning, lawyers were paying for a lawsuit of Cuyahoga fund stuff. So I was.
It's only got a lot of that.
So I. Oh, yeah.
There are some stations that have.
They seem eager to share it. Well, hopefully.
And they've got 4 or 5 at that time, so I've got projects, who's at every day. The problem is, when you go by, you have to have something like this, but it has to be something like this. Well, nothing that is something like this.
Oh, okay.
Except that. And that's what 99% of all military stations.
Yeah.
Take over that. Well, but then they
Right.
kind of make clear some needs.
I haven't really gotten it.
Is that something that you have?
Kind of more.
It's like kind of where they.
What they're going to end up doing, you can't find this, because we're doing this problems are drones, they're going to like roast drones. Okay, it's going to cost like 10, 80, 30, so it's going to shoot.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Well, you have this converter box, and you're like, it's like 7 box, and it'll then like do it for you. It's like, so that's what we're doing, it's only going to $3,000. Just for that, so I think, why don't I get, something?
I mean, you could like, you can make it 3,000.
Even at 6, like, say,
Yeah.
Or wherever, that's really what you want, that's everything you want to do, which is good.
The one thing though I will say is they haven't figured out Those, like, what do you call them, 7 points.
Oh, okay. I was like, open it.
Well, it's so big.
It's so big.
Because like, you can get really wide and you can very tight.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, I like, I remember. You remember? Yeah, I didn't.
There.
It's one of those.
But,
It's not that wide, like on the
I
wide.
know how these work. I don't
You
know
can do
how
that
the
after the
internet,
fact,
like, awesome.
but like, it's really good. And then,
It is 1.9.
yeah.
It's pretty fast, but the sensor's so small.
Oh, I don't know.
I think
Yeah.
that's kind of.
Oh, no, I don't mind it all.
Like, looking down there.
Background,
You know, or like 20 to. Yeah.
And then now there's like 2 more.
But I mean,
Still,
is that like a common thing for you?
20, yes, you know, like 20,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
that's like, they need to get.
Is that like an everyday?
20 meters, that way you can get much
Oh,
higher.
no, that was.
At least 24, I would
Yeah.
take 20.
No, I owe you 2 papers now. I am in that. Yeah.
Well,
We're moving urban, that's for sure.
Yeah. Even in outdoors, you can just go back and forth.
yeah, maybe visit that.
How are you?
It's just so, they can't do it, I guess. It's just so heavy.
Yeah.
I guess.
two for just in case.
Yeah, because I was there, there was you left at 7:30 this morning, you go down there, and just have that.
I know when I first went to 2 weeks, I was like, oh, it's tomorrow. I was off one day. And because I'm up and they're like, no, you need to go. I'm like, oh, right now.
And Billy has the same problem too, 'cause he keeps this.
Yeah, it goes back, especially here, I feel like that breaking news happens.
That would be nice. I think we all.
Huh?
Now, but then it's still like, I like 1.5 in the range, so.
So,
you know, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, they're really good. I think
I was,
it's pretty
I don't like it.
started to follow that line.
Yeah, they only come around a family right now.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. That's actually makes lots of holidays, which I go to, you have to work for a holiday.
And that price range anyway, that's
I know, I actually just got on the weekend.
A text.
A few months ago.
Congrats. That's always.
Okay.
So that's actually, like, I was off weekends like this time last year, and then my replacement ended up getting fired.
It doesn't work, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
But the new guy, they replaced him, but he's really good. And then they let him go. But I was really lucky,
They've gotta have
didn't
something
have
in
to
between.
come back to weekends.
So it's just like that.
Oh, yeah.
They have to have 12, you know, 10 to whatever. That was one of the, or like 25 differences, you know.
No, just.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm trying to get. I'm night side most days,
Yeah.
I'm day side, a million days like today, just a few days out.
It's pretty great. I mean, honestly.
Now.
Oh, great.
And
Yeah, I'll have
I've
that.
been there before, but I want to know how they suffered from fire.
Pretty good stuff. Lots of hours, right? Lots of crowd.
But the shows,
FEMA basically has a bunch of like temporary.
I think the place that shows, guys, the
Yeah.
short stories or like, just like the length of the.
Yeah, really, it's just like lots of crowd.
I think it was fun.
You know, it's that type of stuff. Everything else, they're
God,
good.
so nice.
Yeah.
You can go, yeah, you can
I
go.
know like a lot of the businesses.
Afterwards,
well,
after
they were saying like, tourism down or whatever, but like, we're still here and all that stuff, but.
Night side.
But it's still just like when you fly in, it's like green grass, like it's not very good when you fly in, it's like looks like hay, or like, you know, it's burnt, or trees, not grass everywhere, but yeah.
No, we kind of like, we.
But yeah, it was awesome. All
They said we want you to add another
Yeah.
2 hours to your
Experience
room.
stuff that we did that were.
Yeah,
that were
I really wanna try
So they're out
it.
from.
It looked really great.
4:30.
How was the weather? Was it really hot?
So, that was
From
perfect.
7 to
It was
9,
like,
not just on their.
you know, mid-70s,
Really?
like 80 some days, which is like,
It's the same picture, so they changed it out.
Yeah.
Same one. They actually, they kind of try to rotate, so like one of them will do like 7 to 8, and the other will do 8 to 9.
Hopefully we're gonna go for a
Or like
little
they,
more than a week.
Yeah.
they do it together from 5 to 7.
yeah, that's, you guys are gonna run a car, right? Yeah, just a nice car. I think we drove.
I feel bad for the reporters and the public, honestly, because they
We
have
went
to
everywhere.
stay in position
We did
for
like
like
road
a
down,
lot.
a couple of
Okay,
days.
good, yeah.
We drove around there.
Yeah, I will definitely wanna see it for us. Did you come just
I
before
mean,
this?
that's, must be.
I've been there before, actually.
Before
Before
COVID,
COVID,
you can
really, like, me and my family, we went there for,
I bet you could
4 days or something.
That's
And then we
not a
did,
lot.
and then we did a cruise from there, so we did like a, I know cruise that went to either island, but I just remember that the first, the days that we spent on Maui, I was like, oh, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, they are trying to schedule like a lot of
Everyone's so kind.
studio interviews.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then just like the beach, I was doing, like years ago. No beach is crowded, there's so many beaches, and then they all have like their own thing, like, this beach is good for the people that are smoking. You know, this beach is more crazy and you don't want to boogie board on it because it's like, you know, smashing the ground and like, and then there's like surfing beaches, so it's like, it's cool that there's, and then, no, like, it's not like people like skate or, you know, that lot, some of them you could like,
We were part of that.
usually it's like, there's a hotel or something there. We didn't do any of those. But like most of us, I'm all side of the road.
I usually get in and make around and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I was in the middle or just like a middle of the day.
And we did use the hot all and stuff like, insane.
We're right next to them.
They're just everywhere, there's
And
no
they
out of the
sent
water.
everybody home for the day because they didn't have any AC. I was like, where? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. If they were in the same boat as us, they sent everybody home.
9 days or 10 days.
The thing was getting up to 8.
Yeah. We
Pick up the truck.
Yeah, so.
I,
What
uh,
kind of did she kind of like get that?
That was my mind. She lives in some of the guy doesn't have their own stuff.
Yeah. And I don't think the courts either, because that was like the reason they closed the
Yeah.
courts.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a stuff about justice center.
Wow,
So
must be nice.
Yeah, so.
Love that.
So I live downtown.
And that's pretty much it.
I'm right by the RT.
Hang with her.
And I always wonder
Yeah.
if they have, because the RT,
Yeah.
they have some sort of like system, they like run that block on. Everybody has.
You can't afford it. I don't, it doesn't matter how much you say, you can't.
The headquarters, there's a bunch of apartment buildings. And I'm just curious if they have some sort of separate system. for the
Yeah.
RT, right? Because it's always weird, it's like everybody lost money, except that RT, they're good, okay, people let it go.
As you were, as Michaela went to, what is that? Where's it? So on there. So I'm gonna say it. What's that?
Yeah.
executive should be in about 2 minutes. He's on his way.
Hey, Dave, we're gonna run. Here you go.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Ronayne, Cuyahoga County Executive. Thank you for being here today. As the conference committee of state officials wraps up and information on the state's biennial budget comes in, it's a story of an Ohio legislature, and particularly the legislative leaders, who are losing touch with their constituents. The citizens of the state of Ohio that they are supposed to represent, our legislative leaders today through this budget seem to be losing touch. Throughout this process of the budgeting cycle, what's been the refrain of our citizens? They want strong public schools, maintenance of health care, Medicaid assurances. They want strong libraries, and maintenance of community services. They want to keep their communities strong. A read of the 2026-2027 biennial budget shows a legislature that's lost touch with the concerns of their constituents and the local communities they serve. Instead of listening to their citizens, the legislature listened to Jimmy and Dee Haslam, caving to their demands at every turn. We asked the legislature to protect public schools, libraries, SNAP benefits, health insurance for the working poor, and Medicaid. But that was all lost on legislative leaders, revealed today in this 26-27 biennial budget. They've lost touch with their constituents, and it's a sad day for Ohio. Instead, our legislative leaders listen to people like Jimmy and Dee Haslam. They line their pockets with your dollars, with your unclaimed funds specifically. At the last budget check-in, when the sub-bill came out, we urged Ohioans to check their unclaimed funds at unclaimedfunds.ohio.gov. And they did. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were recouped. But we urge you again today to check those unclaimed funds, because they're coming for your money in the form of dollars in the fund more than 10 years old. No matter how long the dollars have been in the fund, that's not their money. That's your money. But our legislative leaders have lost touch with the citizens of Ohio. Instead of directing you to the monies you've rightly earned, they gave away an unprecedented $600 million to Haslam Sports Group for the Brook Park boondoggle in this budget cycle. They gave it away to Jimmy and Dee Haslam. They picked your pocket. They picked the pocket of Bruce and Betty Buckeye and gave it to Jimmy and Dee Haslam. They also gave away a lot to the wealthiest Ohioans, and it seemed to be their MO of legislative leaders. They've lost touch. The flat tax that helps only the top 20% income earners of Ohio was given to exactly the group, while they debilitated our public schools, our libraries, our health care, and our access to Medicaid. On schools, they eliminated the democratic process of electing state school board members. Gone is a state school board system of elections where 19 school board members are voted in by their electorates here in Ohio, we the citizens of Ohio. Now, evident from this budget, it's been replaced by a 5-member school board for the state of Ohio, appointed exclusively by the governor. They've kicked the can down the road when it comes to property tax relief for our seniors, something that we have urged this Ohio legislature to pay attention to as property taxes have risen in this county, as have they in 87 other counties of Ohio. All 88 counties are suffering from property tax increases, and our seniors, most, need our help. But that was ignored in this budget. This legislative body is losing touch with its citizens. Even the Cavs, the community partners, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Guardians got left at the altar in this budget, as their simple request was to adjust the sin tax for stadium renovations. Well, that too was hijacked by the Cleveland Browns, who at the request of HSG, the legislature mandated that any ballot that we at Cuyahoga County would put before our voters, any levy before our voters, would have to include the Cleveland Browns proposal in Brook Park. So they've handicapped the ability for the Guards and the Cavs to actually attend to the facility needs that they have in 2 facilities that are older than the current Huntington Bank field where the Cleveland Browns play. The Browns had to loop themselves into that syntax language, which essentially makes the bill for the syntax dead on arrival. And finally, while on the Browns, there's an active court case going on under the Modell law that applies. But what does the legislature do with this budget? To better assure that HSG, Haslam Sports Group, betters their odds in court, the Modell law was changed in this budget in real time while an active court case is going on. The legislature changed the rules of the game. It's a curious thing when a legislature changes the law as it pertains to a defendant currently in court, they being the Haslam Sports Group. They changed the law and essentially changed the rules because this legislature sets the rules. It's a sad day to look at our Ohio budget and its priorities. Today marks a day when we see a state legislative leadership group that has lost touch with their citizens, the very citizens they are supposed to serve. They forgot about their relationship with our cities and counties in Ohio. They forgot about our schools and our libraries. They forgot about the health and wellness of our citizens in the name of greed. And one case example, Jimmy and Dee Haslam. We in Cuyahoga County will not be bought. We will stand up for our citizens, for their health and well-being. And again, thank you for being here today. I can take questions.
Chris, I'm curious with what is in the budget, if that does indeed pass and becomes law, what ground you have left to fight on?
The governor. The budget came out of conference committee. It is being, as we speak, voted on. It has one more station that this train goes through, and that's the governor's office. This will be on the governor's desk. He has until June 30th to sign it. He has an opportunity to line item many of what we think are the defective pieces of this budget. I just named off a number of them. He certainly has the opportunity to veto the $600 million unclaimed funds bucket of boondoggle for Brook Park. He's got an opportunity to line item veto that. He can line item veto the sin tax legislation that included the Cleveland Browns and hurts the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Cleveland Guardians, and he can line item veto a lot of other things. So this is now on the governor's desk. He's got 7 days to review it, and I hope there are parts of this that he decides to veto. This, again, is a budget that is not thinking about Ohio citizens or the citizens here of Cuyahoga County. It is thinking about the interests of a few.
Why is this outrage over this coming from you and not from the mayor of the city?
Well, I just represent 59 communities in Cuyahoga County and 1.2 million people. We have real needs, as any one of our mayors in Cuyahoga County know. We have real needs to keep our public schools strong. We have real needs to keep our public libraries strong. We have real needs to keep our working poor insured. In Cuyahoga County, we risk potentially 100,000 persons coming off the Medicaid rolls. I mean, persons who were expanded into the Medicaid pool back a decade more ago when a Republican governor by the name of John Kasich worked with a Democratic president by the name of Barack Obama to deliver over 700,000 cases of Medicaid expansion. I mean, that hurts. So I sit here today to represent our citizens of Cuyahoga County in all respects. We don't want to see our taxpayers get fleeced. As it specifically relates to Brook Park, we've continued to talk about this is not against Brook Park, this is about everybody's downtown, but we also see an unending request of infrastructure resources. We have many questions unanswered. Questions like, what will be the impact on Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, the busiest airport in the state of Ohio? What happens when people can't get to and from that airport to make a flight? What happens when a freight carrier that's actually delivering commercial goods to a hub at Hopkins can't make it through game day traffic? What happens when a locality cannot provide enough police support at any given Sunday game? The questions go on, and those are the questions I continue to ask. And yet we still hear a tin ear. We see a tin ear with the legislature who seems not to care about local impact and local concerns. So the Browns is one big boondoggle. But there's so many other things in this budget that affect working Ohioans who aren't asking for a new stadium in Brook Park, but are simply asking to keep the quality of their public schools, their streets, their libraries, their infrastructure, and access to affordable health care. I mean, those are the priorities of working people. We're not hearing people in droves saying, gee, we want a new dome stadium in Brook Park. This has been a budget about giving to the want list, but not attending at all to the must-do list. And that really, really burdens us in local communities. So yes, I stand up today as a Cuyahoga County executive in support of all of our communities of Cuyahoga County, because the impacts of this budget, just like the federal budgeting going on right now, falls on the shoulders of locals. And you know what? There's a break point for us. We've got Haslam Sports Group asking me for $70 million of approval in infrastructure grants when that's our entire budget for 1 year for roads and bridges here in Cuyahoga County. It's too much. And this budget shows a policy that is the favor of few, and particularly Haslam Sports Group, at the expense of everyone else in our county and in our state. And even the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Guards suffer from this because they've been pulled into this because they've made it a must that the Browns must be on any ballot that you vote on as it relates to an extension of syntax. It's really an affront to democracy. It's an affront to our values here in Cuyahoga County and throughout the state of Ohio. And it's actually an affront to every working person that's simply trying to get by and doesn't see any relief in this state budget.
Cleveland.com is making the argument that you ought to capitulate on this and negotiate because you could get a better deal for the lakefront with Cleveland. What do you think about that?
From day one, my job has been to protect the taxpayers of Cuyahoga County, and I will say we are proud of the fact that we fought back when we received a letter May 15th from the Cleveland Browns, and in a sentence in that letter, they said, we don't need the county's support to execute this deal. We wrote them a letter back May 19th and said, we'll take you up on that. And we have held strong ever since. Unlike the legislature here in Cuyahoga County, we have held strong to protect taxpayers. It's interesting that the Legislative Service Commission agreed with our premise that this is a deal that's too risky, it's overly risky. The Governor's Office of Budget and Management agreed that it's overly risky. But what do? The state legislature ignores the LSC and the OBM, and they actually fund it to the tune of $600 million. But they don't think about the whole community cost, the cost of infrastructure, the cost of airport impact, the cost of opportunity costs of projects not yet realized, because all of this is a sucking sound out to the Haslam Sports Group new dome stadium in Brook Park. As it relates to the lakefront, I say this to Haslam Sports Group: if you're going to give a gift and give it without any strings attached. If you're going to give $100 million as your legacy leave away, if you're going to give $200 million, give the gift, but don't put the string attached that you've already articulated to the mayor of the city of Cleveland, that in order to get that gift, the county's going to have to bond it out for Haslam Sports Group. That is a gift with strings that we are just not going to participate in.
And those are the strings that have been put on.
That's right.
Do you think you're going to be able to hold to this position that the county is not going to participate, especially, with the dynamic with you and county council?
Well, I say to every colleague of Cuyahoga County Council, first of all, let's work together on this, because let's hold the line. As I say that, we've heard from a couple of council members the interest in participating. Why would you participate in a project where the applicant has said we don't need your money? It's a curious thing. And so I continue to say to my colleagues in county council, hold the line. Hold the line. Don't let our taxpayers get fleeced. Don't put us in an overly risky position. And I think the majority of county council agrees with me that this isn't something we should endeavor in, especially when the applicant, Haslam Sports Group, told us in a letter to the county they don't need our money. We held the line, and we saved Cuyahoga County taxpayers $600 million. We saved them $600 million. I intend to save our county taxpayers $600 million. But the legislature didn't help us today because they didn't listen to the locals. They didn't listen to the MPO last week, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, that voted 33-8 to not fund the infrastructure request in Brook Park. Those were mayors throughout Cuyahoga County. Those were councilmen throughout Cuyahoga County, council members. Those were county commissioners and engineers from other counties. I mean, professionals have said this doesn't make sense. Economists have said this isn't economic development, this is extraction. So the only people who are listening and drinking the Kool-Aid at the legislature who've said, well, we believe it's economic development. It's not economic development. It's poaching from one community to the next. It's extraction. It's not economic development.
Do you have any asks to the governor relating to Medicaid in the state budget? And do you see any role for the county going forward as federal cuts are likely to come through and potentially state cuts as well?
Very much so. Our message to the governor, and I've communicated with him within the last week, is hold the line on Medicaid. Keep our working poor protected, meaning keep eligible that pool of recipients that were made eligible years ago under a Republican governor and the Democratic president. Keep that expansion pool working and keep them in insurance, because for us, that's a very vulnerable population. If a working poor person loses their Medicaid benefits, how do they work? How do they work if they're not healthy? I think the governor's values, I hope, are aligned with that thought to hold Medicaid in check and keep it together for our expansion pool. We could lose 100,000 persons from the roll here in Cuyahoga County. And there's some very detailed work in the budget about work provisions, but take a deep dive, Governor, on the impacts of that, and don't make it so difficult to apply for Medicaid that somebody decides not to do it. We need this to be open and accessible to the very pool that we were intended to help years ago, and it's worked. It's kept people working. So yes, to the governor, we would say watch that trigger language in the state language of the bill. Don't just do as the federal government does, so goes Ohio. I mean, this copycat government, we can't have that. We need to have an Ohio that understands the needs of its people, and in this case for Medicaid, it's working poor.
Some county council members are on record saying whether we like it or not, it's happening and we need to be ready. Do you have a response to that?
We don't think it's over till it's over. Haslam Sports Group may have gotten $600 million from the state legislature today, but they've got to find the other $600 million that they're asking for in terms of public support, and they're not getting it from us here at Cuyahoga County. So I would say to Jimmy and Dee Haslam, look into your own pocket.
What did you think when you saw the changes to the Model law language?
It's a curious thing when you have an active court case, in this case the Model law case, that the Haslam Sports Group itself used in Columbus to keep the Columbus Crew, the soccer team in Columbus. But it's a curious thing that the state legislature changed the very law that's being actively heard in court currently. And that court case is the dispute between Haslam Sports and the city of Cleveland. It's a very curious thing that while that case is going on, the legislature decided to move the goal line and move that goal line out to the county line to say that only if they leave a single county will that law apply. It's a very curious thing that during an active court case where the Model law is being discussed in the dispute between the city of Cleveland and the Cleveland Browns, that the legislature came in from on high and changed the game, changed the rules, moved the goal line, and actually set that line out to county line. That was a very striking accommodation to the Browns' Brook Park proposal. And it was also a very striking accommodation to a defendant in court who's currently in a court case. Thank you very much. Thank you.